Welcome to the
Datatopics podcast.
Hello and welcome to Datatopics Unplugged, your casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week. From Minecraft to the Octoverse, everything goes. Check us out on LinkedIn, YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment or question or send us via email. We'll try to get back to you. Today is the 8th of November of 2024. My name is Murillo. I'll be hosting you today, and I'm joined by my sidekick, podcast sidekick, but live mentor. I'm not sure. I was just trying to spin it back. BART.
It just made it awkward.
Yeah,
Hi everyone.
And we have a very special guest today, Nico.
So?
Yeah, for sure. Hold on. I think I'm gonna put the applause. So,
Thank you. Glad to be here.
glad to have you here, Nico. Nico is one of the tech leads for the Data and Cloud business unit at Dataroots. He's well, why don't you introduce yourself? I don't want to,
Well, as Murillo said, technical lead for Data and Cloud. Been at Dataroots for almost 5 years. In January, it will be 5 years. And I've mostly been working on data platforms from the cloud side.
yeah.
So
And when you're not designing data platforms, you're cycling, I hear.
I'm cycling, yes. And next to that, I also found another love, but in the same vein as my work, more like software engineering and
Cool.
recreating tools that already exist.
Okay, cool. In Rust, of course.
No, not in Rust.
Wow.
Rust.
Hold on, let me just
Right now, I'm working with Go.
Cool. Go. But you already knew Go when you joined Dataroots, no? I remember there was a
No.
but you worked on deploy, which was in Go, no?
I did the Python part.
Ah, okay. I thought you did the Go part.
No.
Cool. So yeah, and the reason why I brought it up is also Nico. He's you cycle from Belgium to Austria.
That's one of my feats. Yeah.
Phew,
So
man.
that's what he does on Fridays. Huh?
Yeah. It was just
Well, it
like-
was 3 days. It was 3 days. So it was not only on Friday.
but still, I remember so the backstory is that we do a yearly ski trip at Dataroots,
Yeah.
and then Nico's like, "Oh no, I cannot make." Actually, you're very direct, right? For people that don't know Nico, and I think you just put it on Slack. You're just like, "I can't make it. I got COVID," and everyone was like, "Oh man, oh I'm so sorry," but it was really 5 words, And then we went with the van. And then the next morning, I just saw Nico sitting there, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Did you?"
And he cycled all the way there.
Yeah, and I was like covering my nose. I was like, "Didn't you say you
How
had
many
COVID?"
kilometers was it? 1,200 or something?
No, it was 900 kilometers, almost 900 kilometers
Still.
Yeah,
Jesus.
in 3 days. So
yeah, that's
alone.
and it was also not. It was it was winter. No, not winter, but it was
No,
going
it's-
towards.
Well, at end of March, I think, somewhere
something
there.
Yeah,
And I was really lucky because it was 3 days, no rain.
yeah, that's good. I imagine that if it was raining, ice and stuff, it's probably not. It's also dangerous, no. But did you have to cycle on the highway as well, or
No, not on highway.
there was also back roads and stuff? You didn't have to.
Well, it's a bit difficult of creating a route for 900 kilometers.
You don't
so I
put on
just
Google
used-
Maps and
yeah.
just go.
Well, yeah, something like that. But
Okay.
then I looked a bit if there are rivers or something. I rather go along a river
Yeah.
than
I see.
along streets
smart,
because I know a river, even though it's 5 or 10 kilometers longer, it's flat and no cars.
True.
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 roads where I was a bit of afraid because sometimes it's a road where you can go 90 kilometers an hour
Yeah,
without
yeah.
a cycling lane. So
Uh,
that's a bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. But well, yeah, very cool. But what do we have here today? Maybe I think the most okay, Bart,
Maybe it's a good segue to Strava.
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 What about Strava, Bart?
Strava is actually just something fun that I saw popping up today. Strava is a platform for people that don't know. Strava is a platform for athletes, they record their workouts there basically, and it's
Mhm.
also a bit of a social platform where you can you followers, you can follow people, stuff like that. And Strava now has Athlete Intelligence in beta.
I've been laughing at that for a lot.
Athlete
Sometimes
intelligence.
Athlete Intelligence. I actually didn't know. I just saw someone from our team, Thibaut, posting a screenshot that he got after he went running.
Really? What does he do? I'm trying to find it here. Where?
It was a very motivating message that he got from Athlete.
But that's the Athlete Intelligence. It's like, go get it, Tiger.
No, it says so. He went on a running trip, right? So he went
Okay.
running, and he got a message from Strava Athlete Intelligence on his mobile. Great job on another activity. This activity was recorded in trail run mode, but based on your workout analysis, we suggest recording future activities in hike mode. Selecting the correct sport will provide you with the most comprehensive and accurate data.
So basically, it's like, you were walking.
Yeah,
Just
let's all be honest. She was just walking.
Okay, yeah.
So this is what AI in Strava brings you.
Yeah, I also got one. A bit of the same, like a bit of context. When I go cycle, I always go by a river, so it's flat.
Okay.
And so I don't know. Sometimes I go over a bridge or something, so it adds a bit of elevation height.
Yeah.
So now it gives me like the comment like, oh, you did 30 meters of altitude. That's higher than your average. Good job. But just to know, 30
See, like,
meters
but-
is
but
literally
like-
nothing.
But like sarcastic
Yeah,
humor.
it's
Like,
like-
it must be added to the prompt.
Wow. Yeah. It's like, wow, it's so impressive. I would never expect you to do this. You know, it's like,
I don't know, like it literally doesn't add anything to my experience.
But I think also these things is like, I don't know. I mean, I think the classifying the activity, it's not something very new, right? I think Apple Watch has been doing this for a long time. A lot of other devices have been doing this for a long time, right?
That's true. But,
So
being burned by the app is new.
yeah, that's true. Now they have the LM too. You know, it's like
Maybe later we can like have a slider like how sarcastic or how
Yeah,
motivating you can
exactly.
be, though.
How
That would be
sassy.
cool, yeah.
A bit
That's
like the robots from Interstellar. You can say it.
Yeah, the level of sarcasm
yeah,
and all
level
these
of
things.
sarcasm.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Huh? I actually think it could be also like a nice social experiment. You know, like how do you motivate yourself? If just like some guys like, nah, you can't do it. It's like just go home. Cool. Well, maybe also while we have Nico here, I know you are. We have the RootsConf coming up.
Mhm.
You're gonna do an HTMX workshop.
Yes, indeed.
I'm just reading the show notes, huh? But apparently, someone thinks that HTMX is a tough choice.
I didn't know that you were going to start out with this.
Well, I wasn't gonna, but like I was looking for the Strava thing, and I saw this there, and I saw Nico, and I was like, well, if he's here, I think it's also good to let's clear the
I
house.
didn't
you
know we were going to have this clash at the beginning of the pod.
So, well, I think let's set the tone here. And then, if you don't have time for anything else, that's okay. Yeah.
Maybe Nico, you can give like for people that don't know, like a very short, like what is HTMX? When would you use it?
Yeah, if you don't want to get into new frameworks, front-end frameworks like React or something, or Angular.
Yeah.
You want to stay on the server side with very minimal HTML tags. You can basically have a plus or minus good experience in terms of not really your activity, but navigating the web and doing post requests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very, very, very a basic explanation.
And I have, and I think like on paper, like if you try it out to get started, so like it works very intuitively.
Yep.
Like it brings you much closer to just writing HTML and CSS instead of like a huge framework that you need to get to know, like React or Vue, or. And it works a bit like you annotate your HTML elements to give it extra functionality.
Indeed.
Like instead of like you can have a button actually send a certain request on submit, like these type of things. And over the last 2 years, I think it really hyped like a few years ago, right?
I think a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
By some YouTubers.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Are you gonna
That's
name
where
names?
I saw it from. So
Put them on the pod. Which YouTubers?
the Primogen
Yeah.
and Theo.
Hypothesis.
And I've been trying. Like I always start out with it when I have a new small project, and I always move away from it.
I can understand that. Yes.
Wait. Why? I think that's also an interesting comment. Why do you understand? Why does it come so naturally to you?
Because I've worked on the other side as well. I've worked with React. I've worked with other frameworks, and you get familiar with them. And I think BART is also familiar with them. And then it's basically a shift in shift in the model that you have to think about. And there are some caveats that there are that you have to know. Sometimes you think it's gonna work, but then you try 15 different things, it doesn't work, and then it's just because the JavaScript of your library, that's your style, your component library, hasn't annotated some elements. So, I mean, there are some pitfalls, but I mean, it's something different.
But then it's more because like it's a new way of thinking, mental model kinda. So people that are not familiar, if they're already doing other frameworks, the hardship of transitioning, it's easy. It's very attractive to just go back and just get it done.
Well, I think HTMX, like you get started very quickly. But from the moment something becomes bigger and like composability becomes a thing and maintainability becomes a thing, like all of these things, there is a framework for it in React, for example. Like there is a good mature routing framework. Like these type of things, like they've been tackled, and you at a certain size you need to re-implement it. I have the feeling in HTMX.
Is it because
or you need to you need to start forming your own opinions on as well. In React, there is an opinion on how to do it.
But then do you think it's with time HTMX will get there? Or do you think it's more like the way the HTMX is set up, it's not easy to build these?
I think for people like me, there are a lot of people that's using HTMX in production. So I'm just talking out of my own experience here. But now recently, and it's maybe the most recent reason why I switched, I think is an interesting one in this context, is actually GenAI based. So we were playing with V0 from Vercel, the GenAI component generator, which can generate HTMX actually. Is it? Yeah, I tried it out.
Is it new?
I don't know.
Okay.
Tried it a week ago. We talked about it a little bit on the pod, but by default it generates a React component, right?
Yeah.
So I generated a React component. Looked very nice. It uses chat CDN.
Yeah, indeed. That's
for components, for styling and stuff like that. Everything out of the box. Looks very nice out of the box. And then I asked, do this for HTMX for me now. And then it does generate it. And then you need to say, okay, but with what kind of template, like what kind of CSS, like you get very custom stuff. So either I was going to go with this HTMX and then do very custom CSS stuff, build my own components, go for with something like Pico CSS, like a small CSS library, or do Tailwind. But then I can't use Tailwind directly because I can't use chat CDN. So I need to re-implement the chat CDN components to have it look the same way. And like this, just easy, because I mean, this is not a project I'm going to use for the coming years. So this is just a small hobby project. So I was going to go, okay, just the lowest path of friction was to not use HTMX, but just use a React framework like Vite. I'm using Vite now, with V0, and I just copy pasted the component and it's ready to go. It was really just like, and this was the first time that was the reason not to go for HTMX, because it was just the lowest path of friction. And I thought it was an interesting one, because if you don't have this generated for you with either V0 or chat CDN, actually the lowest part of friction to get started is HTMX.
Yeah.
Because setting up a React framework is a lot of things.
Well, yeah, you can just do you can go npx start project or create React app, and then you have all the boilerplate as well. Huh?
Yeah, but that is fully agree. But like for me, that feels weird. Like the boilerplate, like the create React app or Vite, like it pulls on like 250 megabytes of dependencies.
Indeed.
And like it doesn't feel like a lightweight start, right?
No, indeed.
It's not a boilerplate. It's like your whole project already. It's just like just doing.
So yeah, it's just an interesting experience.
But then I guess like if you were to use HTMX today, it would be if it's like a very small thing that maybe doesn't like is very custom and very small. Like you're not building like a whole website. It's just like this little thing that you need to do.
I think it also depends a bit on what you have experienced. Like if you never use React, if you only written backend code, HTMX will feel much more natural. I think, much more easier to get started.
But then at the same, like from what I understood, what you're saying is that there are less components that are out of the box that you can just use either.
Yeah, it will be more basic HTML. Then you will need to build something with Tailwind or something like that. But like using React, if you've never touched React, it's also quite a steep learning curve.
True, but I do feel like that's where people are. I mean, I'm not as in-depth as either of you, but I do feel like most of the stuff is like React is the most popular. There are some other ones, but I feel like React is the most popular one.
I think so as well.
Yeah. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, are you still friends, by the way, or?
Yeah, but I have. If it works, it works. Huh? I mean,
Okay, it's fine. After we can
I
stop
just-
recording real quick, and you can just say
Yeah,
tell
no.
the truth. It's okay. I just
Why I use HTMX is because I just wanted to use something new, something else.
Yeah, but I think
because it's also
But I think like the promise of it is super cool, because I think everybody that builds that builds something either with whatever React, Vue, or whatever, like you have the feeling this is way too complex. Like all the dependencies, use the Webpack, all the translations from TSX to JSX.
we've
Yeah.
built on top of,
exactly.
and we've built.
Yeah.
How many times has the package manager already changed?
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think
Every
the
time
promise
there's a
of
new one.
HTMX is beautiful.
Well, I think even like Dino is like they play a lot with this, right? Like even the marketing thing, they're like they want to uncomplicate JavaScript, and they make the joke about all the frameworks and all these things. I think people that are in it. Maybe a little side note, because you mentioned building things on top of things. For the Python user group, right? So we have the website, and I wrote that.
This is the Belgian Python user group.
The Belgian Python user group. I can actually just put it quickly here. So there's like a little website that we put together, right? And this is actually built in Python, but it's actually a Python framework that is Python, and then it gets transpiled to Next.js. Yeah, it's like layers on top of layers on top of layers.
But it gets transpiled to JavaScript basically.
Yeah, exactly right. So actually, I just want to see if I can find it here. I think the name is
What's
called.
it called again?
It was called Pinecode.
Yeah. It's renamed because of the
Yeah,
database.
even the name of the repo is Pinecode website, but they renamed it to Reflex. Yeah,
Mhm.
Reflex. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. Like it's just indeed. So they it's probably like a JavaScript developer that was like, let's just add another layer for Python people. Yes, and then they put this together. So just a small side note. But since we're talking about different languages, I also thought maybe we can segue into the Octoverse. AI leads Python to top language as the number of global developers surges. So basically, Octoverse, as I understand, is like a report from GitHub that they see like what's the most used programming languages and all these things. And JavaScript has been the first one for a long time, but this year I think was the first year that Python was ahead. Yeah, I don't know, like this. It was a graph just like this. What is it? Oh, I had it. But I think it was actually for new repos actually. So
Okay.
they were saying that probably still the usage is still bigger for JavaScript, but the amount of new repos that are in Python is actually ahead.
Would there be more JavaScript or more PHP?
In existing lines of code, you mean? I don't get it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it tracks, but
I think it's like probably the same stats that you get on your repo, right? Yeah, top programming languages on GitHub.
Okay, interesting.
So you see here, up until last year, JavaScript was there, but now Python went ahead.
Ranked by count of distinct users contributing to projects of each language. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so this is really the amount of users per year.
Indeed, but like I thought, what is it? I thought I saw most popular programming language is Python. Beats out JavaScript as most popular language. IC continues to grow with HCL, the HashiCorp, and Shell. TypeScript continues to grow strong as Triple. I don't know. I don't remember where I saw it.
And what do we see here? So the top language this year is Python, overtaking your JavaScript. Below JavaScript comes TypeScript. I think people would argue that they fall in the same bucket. So together they would overclass Python. Probably.
That is true. That is true.
Then Java, C#, C++, PHP. And there is the PHP one.
Yeah, PHP has been dropping. Since 2014, it was the third, and now it's the seventh.
I think it's only at this size still because of WordPress.
Of clear, yeah. I'm
might get a
1000%
resurgence
sure.
now that Laravel has
Yeah. That's
got
true.
some money.
Yeah, but Laravel, I have the feeling I hear again more and more of Laravel.
Yeah, indeed.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So let's see next year if it maybe
That's true.
jumps up.
Indeed, and then there's Shell, and then C,
and Go,
and then Go. Yeah, and then Go joined the top 10 in 2022, and now it's kept its steady position there. So
is it because of Nico?
I think so.
You pushed it into the top 10.
It's just that one extra. Yeah, it was cool. Huh? I mean, yeah. Any surprises here for you?
maybe, but it's maybe more the bubble that we're in. I would expect a Rust there somewhere.
Yeah,
That's probably the bubble that we're in.
it's a bit sad as
But
well.
distinct users, I mean,
Distinct users, true, yeah. Distinct active users, yeah.
Yeah, but
not
if you-
just people that talk about it.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like the ones that use Rust, they are fully on Rust.
And not
right?
not all the rewrites in
Yeah,
not all
that's
the
true.
rewrites.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see what else. State of GenAI. Number of public generative AI projects on GitHub, and then now we're close to 150K. And then
Yeah, but what is that, right? It's just a clone of another.
that's true. With 98% year-over-year growth from 2023 2024. Yeah, so since last year it doubled basically. That's what they're saying, right?
Mhm.
Oyama, state of open source. Let's see, 1 billion contributions public and open source projects, 15%. What's why spike in JavaScript package
Year over year.
year-over-year, I guess. Yeah, Jupyter Notebook used in such a mid AI Python growth. Yeah, no big surprises.
It's crazy that JavaScript, because they have another bucket for TypeScript. I would expect TypeScript to be very strongly growing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think for most purposes, I would bucket, like you said. I'll probably put them together, but they didn't. So it's probably.
Yeah. Don't say that out loud. Eh? Cut that out.
Yeah. We'll
I
edit
hear
this.
these are the top 10 fastest growing languages.
Yes, we also have this here in 2024. So then
Oh,
they
is that
have
there?
they're taking up the percentage growth contributors across all contributions on GitHub. So the first one is Python. So there are two, for people listening, it's like a horizontal bar plot. And then for each language, there are two bars basically. And the one in the smaller one is 2023, and the bigger one is 2024. So Python is the fastest growing language in 2024 as well. TypeScript is the second one, right? And then right below, the top 5 languages most commonly used in repos created within the last 12 months on GitHub. This is actually JavaScript. So actually, there are newer, so there are more contributions for Python, but in terms of new projects, there are more JavaScript new projects than Python projects. Does that surprise you?
Yes.
I think maybe a factor in that is also that, like, if you well, just the project that I was talking about, like the Chechen is actually it's a Go project, but there's a small front end in JavaScript. So you have this effect that where there is a small front end component, you also have JavaScript on. Maybe that inflates the numbers a bit.
So like even if it's just a little bit of JavaScript,
Yeah,
because everything that has a UI is probably going to be some JavaScript, right?
probably.
Yeah. True. But I would remind you, like, yeah, I was a bit surprised when I saw this because I thought this is the GenAI boom, right? So I thought it was going to be way more Python, but yeah, that could be it. They also mentioned here Rust continues. Where is this? Is Rust here? No, it's Rust not even here. Rust continues to gain popularity for its safety, performance, and productivity. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. They also make the note here that Rust is the most admired language amongst developers.
Maybe also why it's JavaScript is because people are more. If you start programming, you'd rather create something that's visually, visual, basically.
Yeah,
That's true.
Rather than Python, which is more like data oriented or AI oriented.
yeah, I think I agree. I think
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if you would, if you will search learning to program 101, you probably end up in these type of let's build a minimal interface, like this type of.
True. I also wonder if you have, like, if you're building a toy project, you're probably building it to show people, and if you're going to show people, you want something a bit nicer than
Just a terminal.
just a terminal. Yeah, right. So it's like maybe it also attracts people to add at least even if it's just a little bit of JavaScript, right, to display the stuff. Like Cheek has a lot of JavaScript now, no?
Cheek has some JavaScript. I think we use Alpine.js there
For
the front end.
Okay.
Maybe what is Cheek?
Why Alpine.js and not just Vanilla.js?
Cheek is a hobby job scheduler. Very small job scheduler, like that you run on a single node environment, and where you can just say basically cron with a front end. That's maybe how you should see it.
You also meant, I think you described this to me one time, like cron is too simple, Airflow is too an overkill, Cheek tries to be a bit in between.
For small scale projects, yeah.
And it's written in Go.
It's
now
just
has
Nico,
JavaScript and CSS.
And the question, like, why Alpine.js and not vanilla JavaScript? I mean, today you can do a lot in vanilla JavaScript. I think Alpine.js allows you to do a bit more closer to how you do reactive stuff in React.
Well, I've looked at it.
But I'm honestly not super opinionated.
Yeah, I've looked at it, but I don't find it that appealing to write JavaScript in your HTML tags.
Yeah,
because I've looked
understand
at
what
it
you mean,
briefly,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'd rather split it out.
Yeah. But you can, and then you just refer to the function in the
okay.
tag.
Okay.
All
right.
But this, to me, is also a way to a bit play around with these libraries. Right?
Last thing that I want to bring up from the Octoverse, that they're saying Docker file. They also noticed that there is a almost exponential growth of Docker files in GitHub projects. And they're saying here, what they're concluding from this is that the increase of HCL, so the HashiCorp, what's the HashiCorp something language? Or is it HashiCorp language? What's the HCL stands for? No one knows?
Configuration language, HashiCorp
Yeah,
language.
HashiCorp configuration language. Yeah, so basically this is for people that are...
Sounds like it could be correct.
Yeah, sounds, yeah. If it's hallucination, it's okay. It sounds good enough. But for people that don't know what it is basically what you use in Terraform to define your infrastructure, right? So they're saying that in the increase of popularity in HCL and Go, as well as Docker files, suggests that people are working more and more on cloud native applications. So I don't know. Not sure if I'm surprised. Not sure if it's true, but it's one of the takeaways that they put there.
Well, yeah, it's also more than just Terraform.
Yeah.
They have Packer. That's also in HCL.
Packer is also HCL.
Probably their console. It's also in HCL. So basically, it's higher level configuration language, basically.
Okay.
So,
but everything is related to infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infrastructure configuration.
Then I think the conclusion is still valid, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
No, but that's good. I appreciate the clarification. Yeah. Any big surprises here? Anything that you looking at this, you're like, whoa, where did this come from? No. No. Of course, there's a lot of GenAI there. I'll even have a topic on the GenAI stuff. And one thing that was brought up was Minecraft, GenAI Minecraft. Have you heard about this part?
No, I'm not sure. I've heard about GenAI generated worlds.
Yes. What is this thing, Nico?
Well, basically,
Oasis. That's the.
Basically, a couple of weeks ago, you also discussed Doom.
Yeah,
GenAI.
exactly.
Basically, it's the same, but for Minecraft.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And this one differs a bit because you can play it in the browser. So you get a 5-minute session or a 6-minute session. I don't know.
I'm gonna try this while you're talking. I'm gonna try this for people following.
It's actually pretty trippy. It's like a bit like you're in a dream.
And what gets generated? Like
everything,
the whole world?
Everything. It's the same as the Doom one. So everything gets generated. So just GenAI model.
But the rendering, there is a rendering engine, but
no.
Everything that
you see,
the images that you see are
just like the Doom one.
Okay.
And so you'll see if we get it running, the coherence, the time coherence.
So from one frame to another, right?
It works, but for example, if you're in a desert, you look at the ground and you look back up, you're teleported to somewhere else.
Okay, interesting.
So
because it basically just tries to infer what is the next best frame.
Yeah,
right?
indeed. Yeah. So like it's really trippy. It's like you're in a dream.
Yeah.
So for example, you can stand still and break a block or place a block. That works. But once you, for example, go to grass, it keeps on generating grass and higher grass, and you would never come out of grass unless you look at the ground, look back up, and you're somewhere else.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting.
Or you can look at stone, and then you turn around and you're in a dungeon.
But that means that there is not much link to what happened in the past. Because if you look at a blank screen, basically you look at the ground, like it doesn't know that it was 10 frames ago. It was standing between the.
Indeed, but it would make sense, right? Because when you're looking at stone, it's highly probable. If you only look at stone, it's highly probable that if you turn around, you're in a cave.
Yeah, true, fully agree. But like it's not highly probable if you had the context of the past with it.
No, but
It's-
that's
I
why I
think
said the time, that
Yeah.
the cohesion is not that
Yeah.
not that
the
That is
temporal
great, but
context
it's cool.
or like one thing we were playing with it is like you can kind of keep walking down to a cave or something, and then you like walk down for I don't know 10 minutes, and then you turn around and then it's like a beach, and it's like I was just going out for what, you know? But
it's really like it's kind of like a dream.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it tries to make sense.
Wow, that's really cool.
yeah.
And we were looking at the images because you're in the queue.
Yeah, I'm in a queue. I'm not sure if we'll have time, but
we were looking at some videos, and it is surprisingly fluid, right?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's like
Not sure how it
15
is when
FPS
you-
or something, or 20
Okay.
FPS.
But still,
Yeah, but it's you have to know it's
It's
rendered
impressive that
in
this
the,
can-
rendered in a browser
Exactly,
somewhere.
yeah.
So I imagine if you run this locally on your laptop or something.
but this looks impressive. What
Yeah.
we're looking at now. That this is
Yeah, indeed.
yeah, but like this is, I mean, this is
this
the
must cost
gameplay.
a huge amount of resources to run this.
I'm not an expert, but probably.
You can actually see the model weights in the code, so it's actually open source as well, no? So
That's really cool.
you can also see what kind of model they're using and all these things. And it's nice, like you can like indeed, you can actually play, you can break blocks, you can do this. It's not just walking around as well. It's like an environment there.
I'm really wondering. To me, it's the same thing when we were looking at Doom. Like, what does this mean for the future of games? Eh?
Yeah, because Minecraft is already like how do you say it, like progressively generated.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, it's kind of static because once you have the seed, you can generate everything. But like, will this add an extra layer of generation, let's say?
explorability, maybe.
Yeah, indeed.
Like this is No Man's Sky, yeah, to the extreme.
Yeah, indeed. Because maybe it can invent new mobs or something based on the situation, or you know.
Yeah, it's really
cool.
It's really trippy, and I mean, yeah, the performance part I think is also very very interesting. Yeah, maybe you mentioned something that I hadn't planned. I had put I think a while ago. I don't think we talked about it, Bart. By the way, the queue, I was waiting, but I think it's going to take a while still. So we'll just have to, we'll put the link on the show notes and people can try for themselves. Did we talk about this before?
No. What is this?
So basically, it's an MIT technology review article that they talk exactly about this, how GenAI could reinvent what it means to play. So they talk about, like, I think, what's the Red something, the Redemption? I forgot the name.
Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption. So the guy, he's basically saying like, yeah, now I'm playing these games, and sometimes you see these non-playable characters and you see it walking around, and it's fun to kind of follow and see what it does. But at some point, it kind of gets repetitive, right? And then he starts to kind of do a deep dive on what could GenAI do for gaming in general, right?
Well, yeah, it's a bit like real life. It's repetitive. You go to work, you come back home, you go to work, you come back home.
And then one day you die.
Yeah, voilà.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
all right, thanks everyone. I'll see you next week. No, but because what they're also saying is that they could maybe have these non-playable characters. They could add some GenAI on top of it, so they add some unpredictability of things. But then they're also, I mean, they kind of, I think there are some companies that do this, and I think they interview. So I read this article a while ago, so I don't remember everything that they go into, but they also question if this is a good idea, because there was also games, I think I forgot the name of the game, but there was like something about space exploration, and then it was programmatically generated, so you can explore indefinitely as many worlds as you can because they're like generated in the game. But then they also said that this was a bit of a letdown because it felt a bit, there was no like storyline. If they said, like, I don't know, I remember that they mentioned that the outcome in the end for people that were playing, it wasn't really as, it didn't add much to the game. It was more of a disappointment than something.
But it's also like they're saying about like we use GenAI to get to a GenAI generated storyline, which is maybe more complex than just adding a bit of, let's say, quote unquote intelligence to an NPC.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I do think there's indeed, it's a spectrum, right? Like you can try to say GenAI is going to do my whole game for me, or you can just say GenAI is going to have a personality for this non-playable character, or for that thing, or for this thing, right?
Let's say in World of Warcraft, you have an NPC and you add some sassiness to its character.
Yeah.
Like that generates like a way to have this a bit more organic feeling to interactions.
Yeah.
without starting from scratch, right? With still clear having I think you can do stuff with it.
I was also thinking that depending on what it is, this could also be like hallucinations is not as much of a problem, maybe.
Well, if it interrupts the gameplay, it does. Like if it interrupts the storyline, it does. That's a bit the.
So I'm just thinking like
you want to have a captivating experience as a player. It depends a bit, of course, a bit on the game. But
yeah, that's true. But do you think? Yeah, because I was just wondering, like for the NPCs, right? The red whatever redemption, right? If you go and start talking to the guy, then you start having this very unpredictable conversation. Is there something there that could happen in terms of the conversation there? Like, do you think there's an issue of hallucination, or do you think that game makers, they can just kind of use GenAI more freely in these contexts?
I think maybe what could be nice is that it remembers what you did, and but certain games already do that. Like if you, for example, steal somewhere in a bank or something, then it remembers. But maybe a bit more extreme, that it can also more naturally react to that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think also the memory thing.
Basically.
Yeah. I think the memory thing is also be something a bit trickier, right? Because I think if you play for a long time and you have to remember what was generated and what was the context, and like,
what if you have like you can easily log each action in the game, like okay, he stole there or whatever, and you can pass that into the, let's say, prompt of the guy, and you say, okay, he yesterday stole a bank and he's a bank teller. He maybe reacts differently than somebody, your friend that also helped you rob the bank.
Yeah, that's true.
See?
Yeah, that's true. That's cool.
That's cool, yeah.
I feel like there's a playing room there. Right?
Yeah,
and I think like if you ignore the computer that's necessary for it, then you can do a lot already today with LLMs. Huh?
Yeah, true.
Like with very limited effort, you can already do a lot of these things.
Oof. Say, Nico, this is your moment.
No.
This is your moment.
Yeah, sometimes I think we grab too much or too quickly to an LLM to solve a task.
Well, I think that, but I like that's what I'm saying. Ignore the compute, but like you can use LLMs for a lot of things without a lot of effort, right?
Yeah, but I can, for example, give you.
But you can make probably something better and more performant.
Yeah, but for example, at the client somewhere.
Not naming names.
No. So we have to basically classify a transcript, and we do it in the three national language in three languages. So Dutch, French, and English. And we basically give a transcript as the LLM which language is it?
Yeah.
Like, whereas you can just have like a couple of keywords that you search, and you have it. Like it's literally probably 10,000 times faster and more efficient to do it that way. But because it's so easy or to just send it to LLM and we get something back, that people just do that.
Yeah, I agree with what you're just saying.
So
and it's difficult, like because it's like what you say, the approach you take, the keyword search or whatever, like it's way more compute efficient.
Yeah, more explainable as well.
At the other end, you have this black box API which you can send an instruction and it's probably going to give the right answer, but you don't need to think about it too much. Just in natural language say, give me back the language. Look, so it's this balance. Like there's also something to say, like there's some efficiency in developing in such a way with something that probably just gives back the right answer.
Yeah, for developer,
maybe it's easier. It's much more performant and probably cleaner solution to do it.
Sometimes you maybe a bit more critical about these things than just ask it.
Yeah,
because then I think we're going in the wrong direction. I think there's a lot of good applications to it, but also, I mean,
I because it's NPCs have a bit of a parallel example to the NPC thing. But it's a while ago now. I think a year ago I tried with GPT-4 back then to like you have a player on a 2D area. And the player, let's say, sort of a Pac-Man that needs to fetch apples, and if you find the apple, you eat the apple, you get points. Like, typically, you do this with so I implemented with a more traditional reinforcement learning model, deep Q reinforcement learning. Takes thousands of iterations until you have something that is performant. I took exactly the same thing. I replaced the backend with an LLM, which is horribly inefficient compute-wise. I fully agree with that. But you just like for every choice that the player needs to take, you just send the environment to the LM, and you ask the LM what should be the next best action to take based on that. This is what I want to achieve, and it was from the get-go at least as good as the iterations.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And that is a bit like what you're saying, like having a trained good model for that, specific for that is probably better long term, because you can let
once
it
it's
evolve.
trained, you can basically just
Exactly, yeah. But the LLM is like, it's super easy to get going. And I think that is the challenge. That's because of that, it's people don't even think about it anymore. Like maybe there's an efficient way to do it.
LLMs is looking a lot like a hammer these days, right? It's like, so just use it everywhere.
Yeah,
it's just
maybe that will become a new branch. Like you have FinOps, but FinGenAI or something, like
probably,
optimizing this in a couple of years.
Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah. But I mean, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I get the feeling as well. Because even for more traditional NLP tasks, right, stuff that like sentiment analysis or NER, I mean, there were models that did good enough. Like it wasn't like this is, because I still think that reinforcement learning, what you're saying, I can still understand that it's probably a difficult machine learning task, right? Because even reinforcement learning, you have to do a lot of iterations. Sometimes if you don't constrain things right, maybe it just explodes the grains. Like, but even for the simple things that there were good models, there was like a well-worn path. You started to realize that, I think we did this for NER, so name entity recognition, that someone spent some time, like a week, trying to prototype something, and someone's just like, oh, let's just ask ChatGPT. Let's just see how it goes. And it was just like much better, like much better, which also is like makes you. I mean, I completely get it, and I think for the very simple use cases, I would stand with you. Like I wouldn't ask an LLM just to classify between three languages. Part JSON. Yeah, but in the end, it's kind of like the hope. Like I don't remember who. I think maybe it was you. There was like someone was going dict equals to eval JSON string, and it was like, yeah, it works, right? But that doesn't mean that it's the best way to go about it, right? So I get your point. But I think it will take some time before we bounce back a bit from it, right? Because actually, though, I heard it on another podcast. Like nothing is as long term as a quick fix that worked, right? And I think that's
true.
It's like people are like, oh, let's just see if ChatGPT can work, and then it works. And it's like, okay, why would I give you more time and money to spend on something else that just works? Huh? So I think that's also a bit those two things combined that we see this inflation, even more of LLM stuff.
In the end, we're just giving our money to NVIDIA and all these cloud companies anyway. So
yeah, it's true.
They'll be happy.
Yeah, someone is happy. You mentioned BART, GPT-4, that's when you did the Pac-Man stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have been better with 01?
What's the 01? Is that with the reasoning?
Yes, with reasoning. Okay. It would probably have been better, but way slower.
Yeah. Maybe that's just, you said reasoning, and I hate how much we anthropomorphize. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing right. Like AI, because I was even talking to other, like some people I play futsal with, and the guy, he did a degree in math, like mathematics. So like he's well equipped to understand the mechanisms, right? Maybe not programming, but like he could like. And then like they're talking, yeah, but this thing's not thinking. I said, no, but now the 01 model, this is thinking. It even says like thinking. And I was like,
because it's just thinking.
Man, but like, it's like, when you say reasoning, and then people once sees on the UI, it says thinking, and like, it's not even that they are not capable of understanding, but it's just there on your face, right? Like, if you're not critically stopping, saying like, is it actually thinking? What is it actually doing? Is it really just predicting the next word? But to tell people like, okay, when it says thinking, it's just outputting something and using that as input for the next, but it's always just predicting the next word, and it's just a mathematical thing and this and that. Like, I think also people don't want to open that box, right? It's easy to just think it's a little person in there in the computer that is thinking, and he just needs some time, right? But
like the mechanical Turk.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
But so what's the difference between the normal GPT-4 and 01? Is it just reprompting itself, or is there some added layer to it?
So it's, well, I'll spit something out and then Bart, you can correct me.
ILA 5 nu.
Yeah. So I think in essence, yeah. So it's like the in between things. It's just like they have some instructions to break the problem down and just say, okay, describe what you see, describe this, describe the text, and that becomes the input for the next time. So basically, the ChatGPT just reprompts itself a few
So
times,
it's
and that's why it takes
self-evaluating
longer.
itself.
In a way, yeah.
Or it's like two models working together.
We don't know
Okay.
actually, right? Because it's OpenAI,
Mhm.
and they're not open, right? Despite the name. So we don't know, but we also think that I think they mentioned on the blog post as well that during the training phase they also embedded this like in per step kind of evaluation, right? So if the first step in the reasoning is wrong, they also have some training, backpropagation, whatever, right, to correct that. So it's not just like the plain ChatGPT that just changed the UI a bit and they said this is a new product. There was a bit more work into it, but I think in essence it was it's the different way of computing things. No, you can what how off was I?
No, I agree. It's also how I understand it. Like I think it's mainly reprompting. Like you ask a question, and instead of spurting out immediately an answer, there's like this step like, "Are you sure about this?" And then there's another answer, and then did you check it this way or that way, or is this phrased in the right context based on the person that is asking the question? So you have a number of these steps in between that, quote unquote, enrich the answer before giving it back.
Yeah.
And then indeed, like that ChatGPT 4.0 was fine-tuned with indeed data that does this.
Yeah. And I remember, I think you told me the first time that there was this thing called like self-reflection, that basically if a GPT model says something and you ask like, did you hallucinate on the previous answer? It could actually tell if it had hallucinated. Like and I think then if you empirically you validate this, assuming that that's true, something like this chain of reasoning makes a lot of sense why the output would be much better, right? Because if you can always evaluate the previous step, they just say, okay, just say 5 things before you give me the answer, and that's it. So I mean, yeah, it's more powerful, they say, but the people's experience, from what I gathered, is also it takes longer, right? So you wouldn't use it as a check completion on VS Code.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Anthropic thing, like the web UI, the one that controls your PC.
The
It's
computer,
Anthropic, right?
Yeah,
That does
Anthropic, yeah, that they had
it's nice,
yeah,
but it takes a long time. Each step.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It takes a picture.
Yeah.
Then it thinks about the picture, then next action, and then okay, it clicks the button.
Yeah. And then it gets another image and
Yeah.
this, yeah. And then sometimes it just goes off, like if it takes one wrong path and you're I
But
I heard it's also very expensive because you always a lot of prompts and a lot of codes.
Yeah, a lot of tokens indeed. But yeah, like 2 years ago we were practically nowhere with this.
Yeah, that's true. Huh?
And so I can't really imagine where we will be in 2 years from now, right?
Yeah, to be seen. These things are moving so fast. But the reason I also wanted to bring up, because you tried 01 preview mini or no mini or no
both.
Apparently, there was the 01, the actual 01 leaked.
Not the preview, you mean?
Not the preview.
Okay. I saw it in the show notes and I was thinking, but 01 is already there. But it's the
No.
preview that is released already.
The preview is released, but this is not the actual model was leaked. So that's what I saw. So this is from November 4th. And basically the way that it leaked is that if they clicked, let's see if they show it here. I think they may show it somewhere. Basically, if you clicked on the
see more maybe on the tweet.
No, this is just a tweet. But where is it? I read it. I saw it here. Basically, if you changing the parameter in the URL. So basically, whenever you click to preview, on the URL was like ChatGPT / blah 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 preview, and if you just remove the preview part, so you just put like ChatGPT.com / model 01.
Okay,
it worked. So people could just go and just use it. So one person, like some people, put it on X, right? And a lot of people went there to check. You never know, right, if it's actually 01 because OpenAI didn't say that this is 01, but they did compare the performance and they did conclude that it is probably a version of 01. I mean, maybe it's going to improve as well, right?
What is the big difference? Just that it can reason over images.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I don't know. Well, I was looking as well. I saw some videos. Every example that I saw that they're trying to show how powerful it is, they were doing reasoning on images. So maybe
how powerful this leak is, you mean?
Yeah, from this leakage.
Because what I understand, and I haven't tested this very recently, but when the 01 preview was released, it didn't support tools. And tools was interpretation of images, but also like executing Python code for calculation or stuff like this. So it didn't support this. I think it still doesn't.
Yeah,
Maybe the release will actually support the tools again.
maybe indeed. So maybe also I'll put this on the screen. This is a video for someone that is trying something apparently between the two. I guess the 01 and this is the 40. But yeah, the examples that I saw, like they show the image on the preview one or the mini. Let me say describe this image. Maybe a better example, since if I'm talking about this, is this one here.
Okay, but so it supports images basically.
Supports his images and apparently has very good performance, right?
And it interprets them better as GPT-4. That's what I get from what you're showing on the screen.
Yeah,
GPT-4o,
and actually
yeah.
the 4.0 and the 01 preview and the 01 mini.
Okay.
So I saw the one YouTube video. The guy was like, there's a picture of a construction workers on a like old school, right, on a beam, and then it says how many people are there, and then they're basically all getting the answer wrong except for this 01. But the 01 didn't even just give how many people there were on the beam. They also said this is probably an old picture from this and this. It's probably this location. This is black and white. The construction workers are doing this. So it seemed very impressive, right? But I think there are use cases for 01, but in general, like 01 mini preview, whatever. But I'm not sure exactly when you would, like, you have to use it, like, because you do have a cost on time, right? You have to wait. So everything that you need a fast response, like code completion or anything, you probably don't want.
So if I just talk about my own usage, is that I tend to enable it when I need to generate text. With text with a certain instruction set, like with this type of with this tone of voice, with that for that type of, like, is it for a post, is it for an article, is it for and like rework, like some comments on it. So, and when I have like a very specific set of instructions to rework some text to something else, I have the feeling, it's hard to make it objective, that the 01 preview works better than GPT-4o.
So, but yeah, I see what you're saying. But it's basically when you're going to make a post and you can afford the wait, basically.
I can afford to, yeah, just, I think most people that just use the UI can afford to wait.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. I guess for me, it's just like I never had any. Yeah, but I guess what you're saying is a bit of subjective, right? I don't think of a clear example like, oh, and this I definitely need the chain of reasoning for the stuff that I do, at least. Even if it's the UI, I probably, I'm not creating as much content, let's say. But even if I do create content, I'm probably going to read and edit, right?
Are you telling me I'm lazy?
I mean, I'm not saying nothing, but no, but I'm thinking it's just like, I'd rather get a fast answer and then I'll read and edit, because I think you need to read and edit anyways.
I don't think like 50 milliseconds and 100 milliseconds are going to change your...
But is it 50 milliseconds?
Okay. 100 milliseconds versus a second.
But is it a second?
2 seconds.
Is it 2 seconds?
Something like that, yeah.
Because what I saw...
It's seconds, it's not minutes.
But it's like 30 seconds.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
That's a big prompt then.
Because I saw the guy with the image, he said it took 18 seconds for the 01.
But maybe image editing.
Right, yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying, yeah, but okay, yeah, but indeed, if it's like 1-2 seconds, it's fine. Because I also feel like I have a very short attention span. So I feel like if it's something's more than 30 seconds, then I'm very tempted to just check on something else real quick. But then it's like I'm switching context, and then like it's 5 minutes later when I'm back.
I have the feeling that this year that is not really the problem of the
latency. It's the problem between the keyboard and the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, maybe I'm a bit picky with these things. But yeah, so I don't know when it's going to be released, the 01, but apparently some people tried it. They verified that the image, at least the image understanding, is very, very good. But are you excited for this part or no?
I don't see any. I don't do a lot of image interpretations.
But like just 01 in general, something like what you use for 01 today, a better 01.
I don't know. It hasn't, like, to me, it hasn't been as drastic as previous.
Yeah.
Like 01 was, like, to me very like it's a small change versus 4.0.
Yeah, I would be looking forward to GPT-5 though. I think I'm expecting a big change there, right? Like they've been very careful as well not to call anything 5, because like even the 4.0.
Let's see.
So I would be more excited when I think we hear about GPT-5. But that's just me. What else do we have here? Tiger Beetle Tiger style, DST.
Yes.
Docs, tigerstyle.md. What is this about, Nico?
All right. So can be a bit of a long story, but so I really like testing.
Mhm.
Maybe not everybody, but I really like testing my code and failing as fast as possible.
Like
Okay.
unit testing you're talking about, huh?
Yeah, unit testing, integration testing, end-to-end testing,
Okay.
anything. I like to do it. I like to do it on dev environments and stuff like that. I like to do it as complete as possible. So the full chain, basically, I always try to test. And so I always try to improve my testing and the way I write code. And I stumbled upon this. It's basically, I don't know, do you know Tiger Beetle?
No.
Okay, so Tiger Beetle is a database for the I'm maybe skipping over some details because it's very in depth, but it's a database for transactional workloads. So basically banks.
Mhm.
And so I also linked a YouTube video about the creator or one of the creators. I think his name is Joram. Can't remember out of my head. So basically, he does a full talk about the design philosophy he has. And so the design philosophy that he has or invented is Tiger style. And it's basically based on some design principles of NASA.
Okay.
And next to that, he also talks about how he tests this. And he tests this with DST, which means for deterministic simulation testing.
Okay.
And I'll briefly summarize the talk. So he starts about these transactional databases that banks used.
Mhm.
They're all built around Postgres or MySQL or databases you get. So you have PostgreSQL, a layer of Postgres, and you build basically a transactional layer around it.
Okay.
And one of the examples that he shows why it is very inefficient, because for one transaction, you need 10 SQL queries.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and then he wants to basically, improve the performance on this, because one of the statistics that he gets is that in India, one of the banks did 12 billion transactions in a month, and so the amount of transactions is always going up, because, for example, now electricity, you also maybe need transacting on electricity, and you maybe want to sell your electricity or buy electricity. Well, it's going up anyway. So you want to basically make
so not only monetary transactions, but going to be
energy,
any
transactions.
Anything,
So then he's building basically a new database, and he found out
and Tiger Beetle is that transactional database.
Yes, indeed. So basically, he says you only need two methods. Basically, you need debit and credit.
Okay.
And he optimizes everything behind the scenes. And then one of the design principles that they created to do this is Tiger style. So why? Because all these this layer with Postgres has been battle tested for 30 years. So how can you battle test something that has been in the making for 2 or 3 years now, I think, for this amount of time, and giving the confidence that you have all the bugs and whatever.
Because this is mission critical, right?
Yes, indeed.
Like this can't go wrong.
Indeed. So then they designed this, and one of the things is fail fast as well.
Okay.
So he what it's called is people program in the positive space, I think they call it. What does the program need to do? But not in a negative space. Where can it fail? So basically, what they do is they put asserts everywhere. So you assert your inputs of your function, and you assert your output. And basically, what happens then is that where you expect something to fail, it fails at that point. Because, for example, you might parse some JSON into an object, and use that object somewhere 10 calls deeper, and you try to access the fields, but it doesn't exist, or it's null. Then it fails very far from your.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And there's all other design principles. For example, static allocation of all the memory, and it's very, very detailed. And basically, combined with the deterministic simulation testing, which basically he basically mocks everything or simulates everything. He simulates disk failures, network failures, everything. They basically mock. They can also increase speed and time. They can fast forward time. So basically what they can do is run a simulation, and every 2 days they test 10 years of simulated data.
Oh, wow.
And because it's deterministic, so they generate a seed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when there's a failure, it automatically captures it, posts an issue on their GitHub with that seed, and they can just replay it.
Oh.
And you can see where it went wrong. And next to that, they also, with the simulation, they built a game on top of it. So they basically compiled Tiger Beetle to WASM, put some game on top of it, and you really see like, because it's distributed, you see like 6 or 7 nodes that play together. And the first level is very easy, everything goes well. Then the second level, they inject network failures or latencies or memory interruption. And you really see like gamified the...
But it's just basically this test simulation, this test on simulated data, but then visualized. Is that how it
yes, but this is just to for presenting basically.
Okay, see, yeah.
It's a fun way,
Okay,
but
okay.
they use Zig, so that it easily compiles to WASM.
Yeah.
They built a small UI and framework on top of it, and you literally see like all the nodes, and then everything fails, and you really see like the consensus algorithm running, like who is going to be the new leader and stuff like that. And you
cool.
can also add like failures in the middle. It's really
nice.
fun.
Is Tiger Beetle also implemented in Zig?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So there they have the choice between, they said it's Rust between Zig, but in Zig you really have control over all the memory allocations. That's something that's, he really wanted, because one of the design principles is that you can statically allocate all the memory up front, and then you don't have any free or malloc or whatever in your code.
And his testing style is then really like make sure to cover everything that could go wrong, instead of focusing on what am I trying to do and is it going correctly. Is that a correct?
Well, it's a bit of both, but basically what he said, he says like I wanna set tripwires in the code so that when I test it with 10 years of it fails, and I just fix it. And also he says like one of his colleagues accidentally sets tripwires, so accidentally sets failures, so that they can they keep themselves on top of the game.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because when I'm just talking for myself, when I build tests, I typically do this to say, okay, I wanted to do this, so let's assert that it can do this. It's typically how I do it. And then I get to 70% coverage, and then I see which lines do I not have covered yet, and I build coverage for the next one. But it's not with the idea of what could go wrong, and let's simulate what couldn't go wrong.
Yeah, but here you assert inside the compiled code. You don't assert in your testing code, which is pretty normal, but here you reassert in your test.
Interesting.
But like for me, I just don't write bugs, and then you don't need to test anything.
Indeed,
I just think it's just easier. Huh?
So there's a talk also on the Primogen stream.
No one reacts.
Hold on. Do we have
it's a classic joke that we already heard like 20 times.
No, there's a I don't need y'all. Thanks. Okay.
No, there's an interest. Like if you just look up Tiger Beetle Tiger style program, there are like a couple of talks, very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
If you're interested in the topic,
we'll link it in the show notes. It's an interesting.
This is cool.
I never heard of this.
Yeah, me neither. But it looks really big, huh?
That's also why, for example, I really like to try out new languages. Not because it's fun, but it teaches you the different design philosophies.
Yeah, I was thinking in the HTMX, when you're discussing HTMX, how like sometimes when you go to a new way of thinking, it's there's like growing pains, I guess. But I also think that too, when there's like to kind of see from things from a different perspective, it also adds you as a problem solver, really. You know, like even if you know you're programming this in this language and there's not that, also I think it maybe adds a vocabulary for you to try to solve things this way. You know, so it's really like about getting good ideas from different places.
Yeah. So for me, especially to Go, you have the concurrency model. I played around with that, and then on the job I mainly use Python, but I basically implemented a bit the concurrency model and all the weight groups and the channel stuff also in Python, because it's just easy.
The concept makes
the
sense.
concepts indeed.
Yeah, indeed. That's true. No, this is really cool. Yeah, no. It's very interesting as well. I like the whole experimentation stuff and like trying things out and the gamifying these things. I think it'll be really cool. Maybe a question for in machine learning, AI, all these things. I don't see as many people writing tests. I'm not sure if it's just like a bubble that I'm in, but a lot of the times when I'm working on projects, I'm the first person to say, "Ah, yeah, we should write tests for these things. Ah, we should do this." And I also understand like why, yeah, we're writing something, we're trying to assert that something is going well, not something that something's going wrong, right? But I also like tests because depending on the test, if it's well designed and all these things, it also makes it easy to understand what the function is doing, right? If this is what I have as an input and this is what I have as an output, it's very clear to see, okay, this function is doing this, right? So I feel like there are many benefits, right? But I still feel like people don't, at least in data science projects, people don't invest the time. And I think it's my theory is that because a lot of times these things people are working by themselves because it's like a POC or something. So you're a one-man team. So and maybe because people think that by not writing tests, you're gonna move faster, which may be true in the beginning. But I also think as soon as you get to a point that you need to refactor something, you need to change something, then I think not having tests doesn't give you the confidence to make changes and make sure that everything still works. Is it just my experience, or do you think it's like about people not testing as much for machine learning projects?
I think that is true.
You think it's true? Okay.
I think it's a trend that we're seeing everywhere.
Because sometimes I look at it and I'm like writing tests and I feel like sometimes
I think it's from the moment it's more traditional software engineering project with no tests, everybody will immediately question why there are no tests.
Yeah, but
if it's a machine learning project with no tests, you need to have someone opinionated about tests to say, but why don't we write a test?
Yeah, I think for
and
me,
I think it's a bit of a difference. Like I think the typical machine learning engineer has a very experimental mindset.
Yeah,
and let's try something, and it's not really thinking about how do we build tests.
But for data engineering stuff, do you see that as well, or do you already see? Because data engineering is more software engineering oriented, I guess.
I think for data engineering is much more the default.
Yeah, but do you see? So I guess if I walk into a data engineering team, they're building a project, I look at the repo, they're probably gonna have tests.
I hope so.
Yeah, indeed. But maybe it's a bit more difficult to write tests, right? Because normally a test, you write it, at a high level. Let's say that if you change something in the code, it should not break your test, right? Because otherwise, what are you testing? You have to test behavior, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you, for example, add a column to your database, you have to change your test. If you change a filter, you have to change your test. So basically, you're always chasing what you basically already expect. So,
but can you write a test that just checks, just checks that this column? I don't know, like you write a function instead of just passing all the data, you just specify the data that you need to compute the new column. And then if in the actual data set there's another column, you just isn't there a way to work around these things? Yeah, the data changes, I agree. But isn't there a way to work around where your functions only care about the stuff that you need to compute?
I think what the point Nico makes is a very fair one. Because you're still in this experimentation phase, you're always chasing what you're doing with the tests. But I think what and depends again what type of model are you building. But let's maybe take the example of LLMs.
Okay.
I think there are very strong arguments to make that you should test the outcome. I think the difficult thing of that is it's not typically not a deterministic outcome that you have in software engineering project, but it's a probabilistic outcome. So if I ask an LLM in a RAG-based system, like how old is Murillo? It's how old are you, Murillo?
29.
29. Then I'm
12.
In a deterministic system, the outcome should probably be the numbers 2 and 9, 29, right?
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
With an LLM, the challenge of that is that the answer can be in natural language written out 29. It also can be Murillo this year turned 29, or in numbers 29.
Murillo was born in.
And they're all okay, right?
Yeah,
and they're all okay
yeah.
based on the prompt, of course. But that approach requires that you test this in a probabilistic manner, which is possible. But there are very little standards for that today. So you need to be very opinionated on how you do that.
Well, you ask an LLM.
Yeah.
Another LLM, is this
But-
correct?
Yeah.
We expect 29. 29 is the output of this LLM.
Well,
correct?
that is a way to do it, but like there, you need to have someone that is opinionated on how do you do testing in a probabilistic manner to set something like that up.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the thing for me is also that this is just a part of your solution, right? And yeah, for that part is a bit hard, but I think for data science, like feature engineering, there's a lot of stuff there's deterministic that you could just write some tests. But I think you kind of.
But I agree. There are also I agree that it needs to happen. But I also understand like Nico's point. Like you're building features. Okay, tomorrow you're still gonna say, yeah, this feature I don't need anymore, or I'm gonna change the definition, or tomorrow I'm gonna and you're always like changing what is the last state of the experiment with. You're chasing it with your test suite.
And you, in the end, you already chased it and you already validated that you have an extra column with the correct. So why would you actually add a test that's probably 9 times out of 10? The next thing you're gonna change a feature or whatever will break.
Yeah.
And you always have to change your code and your test.
And that makes that like test-driven design where you say, I want to test first, and then if I'm gonna write the functionality, it will a lot harder. Right? Like you can still say, okay, this model, this feature set is final. Let's build a test suite now. Then you're a bit out of that experimentation phase, but
yeah, no, but I never. Well, I like to. I try to test stuff. I'm not gonna say that I do it every project because sometimes, indeed, if it's something very experimental that you don't know exactly, so sometimes.
But you didn't write bugs.
No, it didn't. It's just for demonstration. It's just for documentation part, you know. But I forgot what I was gonna say now. Yeah, I think it's like as soon as you know what you want to do, then I think is the point to start writing tests, right? I think in the data science project, in my opinionated view, is also the moment you want to move away from notebooks, right? Like you already did the exploration. I think notebooks are also nice to share to people. Like, oh look, I plotted this. I get this example. You have this. It's almost like you read us a report, and as soon as you know what you want to do, move a bit away, start writing tests, start doing these things. But I still feel like sometimes when I get in the room and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write some tests because of A, B, and C, I feel that some people they're not sure what I mean or how to write tests or how does it all work, but no one wants to say anything because they feel like they should have known by now. And it's always a bit of that weird, like tension, I feel. In the end, I just write tests for my code and the other code is not tested.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. But then when I touch on someone else's code, then I also feel like if I need to refactor something, I'm not confident that I can just change these things. Maybe a small plug to this. I learned recently, and maybe I should have known before, but I learned recently that you can actually mark tests in PyTest. Because one thing I was also doing is this transforming data, and I was actually reading data from Azure. But I was like, yeah, I don't think it makes sense to write tests and read data from Azure because if you want to run CI, blah, blah, blah. So, but then apparently it's very easy to just mark tests in PyTest and just say, this is a slow test. And then you can also change the configuration to say, whenever I run PyTest, don't run the slow tests. And then you can just do that. So something that I
learned. Is it native in PyTest or is it like a
native
an add-on?
Native. It's just
an extension.
At pytest.parameterized dot mark parentheses the tag you want to put, and then then you do pytest -m the whatever the tag you wanted.
So it basically means that like you can give a certain test a tag and you can say
as many tags as
run this one or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, okay, to be a bit more selective on instead of saying these test files, you can really say these individual tests.
Exactly. So in the same file, you can have 3 that require Azure credentials. You have 3 that are very slow that you don't want to run on pre-push, on pre-commit or whatever.
The language classifiers.
Yes, exactly. But it's something that I learned. I was like, yeah, this is pretty handy as well. So now I can have everything there and test it. So I like that. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well, you were talking about testing for LLMs, and it was brought up to me by different people actually that deeplearning.ai, they have a lot of these short courses now. So deeplearning.ai, the creator is the same guy from Coursera. So it's basically like free courses online. They actually have quite a lot of stuff. So it's really cool.
I didn't know that it was from Coursera.
The same creator of Coursera.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the landing page. So they have quite a lot of courses. Here, explore courses. And they
tagline was a bit cliche.
What is the? I didn't even check what's the tagline.
AI is the new electricity.
Yeah,
You are the spark. You read this and you think, I'm going to use this.
You're like,
I'm the spark.
I felt they were talking to me personally. They were like, I'm the spark. But they have short courses, which is basically like an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, I've heard good things about this.
Yeah, so actually
Yeah.
this one was also an interesting one. I may try, but I also think for me, because I have a very short attention span, I feel like it's good to have something short as well that I can accomplish. But what I wanted to share, one thing that so we discussed a bit about testing about LLMs, and I had some thoughts about it. I think similar conclusions to what you did, but then I saw this short course as well, which is actually 52 minutes.
This is a course. It's called Automated Testing for LLM Ops.
From Circle CI, right? So Circle CI is like a CI provider, CI/CD provider, right? So I did a few. I think I did half, just to kind of see if there are different ideas, right, that I maybe haven't thought of. But in the end, it's basically what you said. They said they call it rule-based rules, which is like regex, or you can say, if you say what's the age of Murillo in the prompt, maybe the answer you expect to have the word age, right? So if it doesn't have the word age, that's already a failure, the test.
And these examples are still deterministic.
Deterministic, yeah. So it can be regex, can be find a word, can be length, can be whatever. But basically all things that are deterministic. That's what they call rule-based. You're gonna say something?
Yeah, no, but isn't it the easiest just to output your the response of the LM like in a structured way? I know in ChatGPT or with the
so there is also that like OpenAI, they also, you can validate the response. If you say, I give you like the NER example, right? I give you this text, tell me who is the company name, the country, and the person. So for these three, or maybe the age of the person as well, right? So for these different properties, you already know what to expect. You know the age needs to be a natural number, so non-negative and integer, right? And then you can actually validate. So even OpenAI, in the client, in the response, they actually parse it as a pydantic model, which I was also thinking when you said, like, if you have a structure that something's a no and you find out later, the validation thing is also nice because you find the error as soon as possible, right? So that's something that OpenAI does have, but this is even more generic, right? Like, what if it's just text that you actually want? Like, if it's a chatbot, so you don't have a semi-structured format to validate from, right? And then they talk about rule-based, which is like regex, it's very deterministic things. And then they also talk about model-graded, which I haven't got to, but I'm assuming it's just like asking another LLM about the output of the other LLM.
Well, this is what you often do in probabilistic manner. Right?
Exactly.
Like with the example of how old is Murillo, if you have like a correct answer, a correct answer that I want to see is Murillo is 27 years old. 29 years old.
Wow, your
right?
attention span is really short.
Oops.
Cohesion.
It was just now, but okay, it's fine. You're getting there, Bart.
But let's say I have a correct answer, that my optimum answer.
Yeah.
And then I ask, like Nico is saying, then I ask an LLM the follow-up question. This is my correct answer. Given the previous answer that the LLM gave, score it from 0 to 10. And there you can say something like, this test passes if it has a score of more than 8.
Yeah, true.
And typically that works quite okay.
But then it hallucinates and gives you 11.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But I guess the thing is, like, if you do this 100 times, like, what are the likelihoods? Like, that's why it's a bit probabilistic. Yeah, there is a chance, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, but you're scoring a unprobabilistic thing. Or, no, it's not. It's unknown thing with another thing that's unknown. The output of.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like.
Yeah, I know. It also gives me a bit of a. It's easy.
For me, a test needs to be reproducible. Like if I run it 1,000,000 times, I need to be 1,000,000 times the same output.
There's like with LLMs,
deterministic testing. Yeah. That's what you need to do with deterministic testing.
Okay. That's what you. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like, I feel like a lot of the times for even this ChatGPT, you can change some parameters to try to get something a bit more deterministic, right? Like the temperature and all these things. Maybe you don't want that, maybe because maybe you do want a bit more stochastic. But and I agree. I think it's never like the probabilistic stuff, the model graded stuff is never going to be 100%. You're never going to be 100% sure.
But I'm not 100% with LLMs and how it works in the end. Can you like, if I ask the same question 100 times to the same LLM, the same version, should it give me 100 times the same response?
You can set parameters for that.
Okay.
But like on OpenAI, as I understand, like, well, correct me as well if I'm wrong here, Bart. But like there's like temperature parameter that basically says how deterministic you want it to be.
But can you make it super deterministic that every time you?
I believe you can. I can believe you can. If you set the temperature to 0, every input will be mapped to one output.
So basically, then it probably takes the highest token or something, the
Yeah.
most probable token every time,
Yeah.
and then never
Yeah.
choose as a random
Yeah.
token. Okay.
I believe that is the case.
I'm not sure if it's still there, but there used to be a seed setting as well in OpenAI at least. But there was talk that it was going to be deprecated. I'm not sure.
That's true. Yeah, you
But
probably also need a seed.
This is possible in some situations.
Okay.
The other thing that they didn't mention on the course, and something that I have thought, but you also like, I'm not sure if there's something I'm missing. What about just looking at the embeddings? So if you just say, like, you have an expected answer, you can transform that into a vector, and then you have the actual answer that you get, and you just compare the vectors. If the vectors are too different, then maybe you need to flag it, right?
There's an alternative, yeah.
Because then it's a bit of a mix between the two, because you're still using the embedding, so you still have a semantic understanding of what the sentence is. But that will be always, that is deterministic, right? Well, deterministic in the sense of, yeah, actually, if for two outputs, the vectors are always going to be the same.
Yeah, I think it really depends on your test suite. Like, what type of data are you expecting? Whether or not that makes sense.
Yeah.
This,
but for example, like, because even on the course, they also talk a bit about like the different types of errors, right?
Because the problem with embedding is also like, you have your source of truth, and in order to use that source of truth, you need to convert it to embedding.
Yeah.
But when converting to embedding, it's basically a compressing step, so you lose data. So probably a year from now, you want to go to a newer embedding model, and you have no clue whatsoever what the impact on your test suite is.
But like, if you go for a new embedding model, because in the end we're working on the strings level, right? So the two strings, they're gonna be the same. The embeddings will be different. Maybe they're gonna have different sizes and everything, but the semantic meaning should be the same because the sentences are the same, right?
But what's the difference than just using an LM to do it? Doesn't the LM behind the scenes do kind of the same?
Exactly. Yeah.
It will do some of it, but I feel like, for example, if we say what's Nico's age, and then the LM says, oh, it's very the sky is very blue outside, then I would imagine that the vectors are very different, and that's a very silly example, right? I don't know what's the actual difference between the vectors, but like, every time you're putting it through a model, there's an opportunity for hallucination for the evaluation step, right? And if you're just comparing vectors, you don't have that.
But I think it's like take the example. It's a good discussion, but I think it's difficult to really make it objective what is better or not. Because, for example, I can imagine that if you convert this to an embedding, like, the perfect answer is Merilo is 29 years old. The answer 27 in text is okay. The answer 29. Text is okay. Answer 29. Numbers is okay.
You already forgot again.
But the answer, Merilo is a Brazilian guy and he's 29 years old. It's also okay. But all those are very different things. So if you compare then Euclidean distance, but that's probably what you're going to do more or less, like between those vectors, cosine distance.
Cosine, yeah.
Like, it's very hard to put a threshold on that, right? Like, to say this is still okay.
But maybe also the 27 part, like, isn't 27, shouldn't that be very close to 29?
Yeah, that is true.
In embedding,
that is true. But I think maybe that's a bad example.
And you're saying I was very wrong, eh? But I mean, that's what, like, from the moment that you do it like that, then you need to be very opinionated on what is that number where you say that this distance is okay.
To be honest, but it's like, if you have a traditional machine learning model and you want to do statistical testing, so you have a gold standard data set and you pass it through CI, and it says if the model is, the recall is above 80%, that's okay. But to say 80% is also arbitrary, right? You have to set threshold at some point. And there needs to be some tuning, but
but the traditional, when you're talking about a classification, it's easier to interpret what it means.
Yeah, but the argument of you have to set an arbitrary threshold is the same. It's also there. Like, I agree. You need to set a threshold, right? But that's, for me, I guess, like, what I'm trying.
Investigating what this threshold should be, like in this example, Merilo, like, and with all the different answers that can be correct, is very hard. It's very labor intensive to do.
That I don't know how labor intensive it would be. I think it would be interesting to try it out. But I'm also thinking for things a bit more complex. Like, you do have a reg system, right? So you do know, like the classical is HR, what to do with my holidays in Belgium, and there is an answer that we know what it is, right? But maybe because in the reg, maybe the model will hallucinate or something, and if it hallucinates, I would expect to say something fairly off. I don't know. I mean, also these models change, right? So it's hard to fully predict, but it's something that I haven't seen anywhere but because I haven't seen, I feel like I'm missing something. But I'm not sure if it's like the idea in itself wouldn't work or if it would be just the same as doing a model. I still see value in it, but I haven't seen anyone propose this yet.
We actually tried it on a project.
You tried it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like literally what you're saying.
Oh, really?
And then we moved to the LLM evaluation.
Okay.
But like because you're actually like compressing, because like if you calculate the distance, do you get one number or is it multiple numbers?
One number. If you do cosine similarity, it's just one number.
Yeah, because like the 27 and maybe something that's 27 can be very close to 29, but also Morelos and Brazilian guy, they just 29 can also be as far as
exactly. Yeah.
No, I agree.
27, right? So then
agree. But for me, I'm thinking more the errors of hallucination, right? It just says something completely off, right? The classical, I don't know, like you would hear, like, I don't know, you ask Gemini.
Is completely off. Huh?
No, but for example, Gemini was the question, like when Google was trying to use AI, like, oh, my pizza cheese is sliding off, what to do? And then the answer was, oh yeah, you should put glue on it. Like those kind of things that are absurd, I would imagine that a vector search would catch, right?
But a vector search but I think a vector like comparison can catch it. Is just like how much labor you want to put in it, because it will be much easier. Like if you have this answer, put what on your pizza?
Glue.
Put glue on your pizza, and your reference is a pizza should have tomato and cheese, and you ask an LLM to compare whether or not the glue.
Yeah, that's true.
Good. Like it will say no, it's not a correct answer.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. I guess for me, it's just because I do
with vectors, I need to start inspecting from what moment on, what distance, like
yeah. No,
for
I
that
understand.
very specific answer, I need to start optimizing.
I guess for me, I went there because the reaction that Nico had, is like, okay, now you have something that you're trying to test, and now you're trying to test a black box with another black box, and it's black box all the way. Too. And I also agree with you that like if you put a model and you do this 100 times, how many times have you actually experienced this?
I would say for most situations that are simple enough, I would just force a structured output. Where you say, I want to have a JSON with an H and a numeric value for that, and you just actually read that JSON and do an actual deterministic test on it.
Yeah.
Like make that the standard, and only for those cases use an LLM for evaluation.
No, but definitely agree. I also see from my perspective that most of the more mature GenAI use cases are doing something like this. Like they get the output, and even if they do a layer validation, even if you still want it as a natural language output, you still validate it and they say, okay, based on this and only this, write an answer to the user, right? So they always have this a bit guardrails every step.
Yeah, but sometimes maybe if you want to, sometimes you want to parse it to a JSON, but sometimes you also want to give a full sentence back. Maybe you can get that full sentence, send it to another LLM saying, parse out the relevant information into a JSON and then assert that JSON. To be a bit more,
there's
deterministic, so like mocking or something or whatever. Like I don't know how I would call it. Like,
but I was talking with Batu, and he said that there's a framework that I think we talked about it called Instructor.
Yes, Instructor.
That even does that. I think like if you say like you have a pydantic model that this property is just a string, it can even go as far as like what should be in that string. And you will do
pydantic, like where it allows you to have like this class definition. You say the answer needs to be fit into this class, like extract all the things. But what you could do it in such an approach where you say one of the values in the class is my full answer, and one of the other ones is another key in the class is just the H number. Like you can have multiple things, so you could potentially also combine these things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Interesting. Food for thought.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff there. But that's why also I thought that going back to the courses, there's a lot of content, a lot of new things that people are discovering, and I feel like we try to stay on top of it. I think the things I'm saying make sense, right? But then I think sometimes it's good to have this quick check. Anything else you want to cover? I feel like we already been talking for quite a while. Is there anything else that we want to bring up before we call it a pod?
Maybe one thing. When do you turn 30?
Next year.
What is the month? Let's not make it too specific.
Well, in 5 minutes it will be 28. So
yeah, it's like when are you turning 20 again? September. Okay. There's still some time. Why?
We have some wiggle room.
Yeah, I still have a few more good months left.
Are
and
you
then-
anxious about the Big 30?
I do think that it is a new chapter, I guess, right? Like,
New chapter of wisdom.
well, I don't know wisdom, but something. But well, I'm married now as well,
Yeah.
right? Also, I applied for permanent residency in Belgium, and I think like all these things are coming as I'm turning 30-ish, you know. So I feel like there's a lot of
You're settling.
yeah. I mean, I am settled, I would say, right?
Okay.
I've been settling for some years now, but no, I just feel like it's like every day things like you said, it's kind of the same in a way, but then sometimes you take a few steps back and you're like, oh,
You
this
look
is
back
a
and-
this is a big moment, you know? Like
Mhm.
it's kind of like iPhone releases, you know. Every release is like a bit the same, but then you look like 5 releases ago, it's, oh, actually this changed quite a lot, you
that's
know.
true,
So-
That's
but I
true.
think like 30 is just a number in the end. But I think it gives me an opportunity to take a few steps back and be like, oh wow, okay, this is I feel like it is changing, right? So
Cool.
but yeah. So, but no anxiety necessarily. No, I already found some white hairs on my beard and stuff. That was rougher, I feel. So, so yeah. How old are you, Nico?
28.
28. How old is Nico, Bart?
26?
Alrighty, cool. But Nico, thanks a lot for joining us.
My pleasure.
Very cool discussions. Glad to have you here because I know sometimes it's like, yeah, I was into the pod and yeah, this LLM's like, I get what you guys are saying, but I'm not buying it. So I'm glad
For
you're here.
some stuff I am, for others I'm a bit.
No, but it's good.
complicated.
But
I
it's good to have some healthy criticism.
exactly. I like that. I like that.
Because of the, like, I think we need more people that are a bit critical in this whole big hype curve.
Exactly. And I like that you just don't like you bring good arguments for it, you know, and you're not just trying to go with the flow, you know. So I appreciate it. I think we had some nice discussions. I also like the topics you brought. So thanks a lot. I hope you had as much fun as I did, at least. I don't know about Bart, but I did.
I did a lot. Thanks.
Bart.
It was fun.
Okay.
Definitely. No, I enjoyed it.
Alrighty.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Maybe ask you
See you all next time.
any
in a way that's meaningful
next
to
weekend is a
somebody.
long weekend, no?
Hello,
What?
This weekend.
I'm Bill
You
Gates.
did more.
Yeah.
I would
Yes,
recommend
Cycling?
TypeScript. Yeah, it writes
Of course.
Running.
a lot of code,
Right.
and
I
usually
won't do
it's
that.
slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust. Rust.
I actually don't have a lot.
This almost makes me happy that I didn't
Oh,
become a
so-
supermodel.
Yeah, I just chill.
Super
Last weekend I went camping.
Next.
You're almost 30.
Well, I'm
mate.
sorry,
Yeah,
Fred. I
man.
don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you
No,
today
but
about large
Are
network
you ready for
workstations.
next?
It's really an honor to be here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rust.
Yeah, yeah,
Data
yeah.
topic.
Welcome to the data.
Welcome to the Datatopics Unplugged.
Ciao.
Ciao.